All right, welcome back to another Mile High Motorsports Academy car track combo guide. I run a community Discord, primarily for newer iRacers, but everyone is welcome. And every week they vote on the following week's NASCAR series of which one they'd like to see the most. And this week it was the ARCA car at Iowa. And if you really just want to see the qualifying video for how to qualify at the track, I'll splice that in right at the beginning. Otherwise, stick around and I'll go over, general track advice for Iowa, the ARCA car, and then also the combo of the ARCA car at Iowa and sort of how you want to drive it throughout a race. This is all you watch. Thank you for tuning in, and then I'll jump in after the qualifying videos here with probably a 25-30 lap run so you can kind of see how the tires wear and what that looks like lap time wise. Okay, I know it can be helpful to see it from outside the car too. So for that fast lap that I ran, here's what it looks like from outside the car. All right, starting off the video like I do any others, just so in case you want to practice ahead of time or just want to practice on your own. In iRacing, you can go to the official series, click here on more ways to race and click test drive, and that should pretty much mimic the settings for you for what they're going to be like in the officials. And if it's, in the future, like right now, I think the first Iowa race doesn't start till 9:45. So if that's the case, if it's a future race, you can go down here to look at the schedule and then test drive, leave everything as is, and this should be pretty close to what it'll be like. All right, while this is loading in, just a couple things about Iowa. Um, Iowa is a really fun track. There's a lot of grooves you can run, a lot of tire wear, and with the ARCA car being especially a tight race car, I think this will be even more fun this week, just because you'll be able to kind of slip that rear out a little bit and really get after it, and also have to manage your tires. And especially at a track like Iowa in the ARCA car, with being no cautions, you are going to want to know how to save the tires over a longer run because it is easy to sort of burn up those rears on your exits just the way Iowa is. Similar to if you ran Richmond last week. It can be easy to sort of overdrive it on the exits, slip that right rear, and then the car is just going to keep getting looser and looser throughout the run, right? All right, starting off with the setup. Because the rear is wear so quickly, I actually did not mess with too much here. I put the brake bias at 64. Offset, this was a little bit too much to the right for me, so I'm going to move this down to 0 just so the wheel is straight going down the straightaways. And then lastly, we have the steering ratio. Just a quick description of this, of how it works, maybe a little bit simpler terms, is that, you know, think of if you've ever played a first-person shooter on the computer and you can adjust your sensitivity. That's kind of what the ratio is like. So if you put it higher, it's going to make it less sensitive, and lower is obviously going to make it more sensitive. For fix this week, it's 10 to 1. And typically I like to have a sensitive wheel, but especially here when you kind of want to save the right front over a longer run, I do like to run 12 to 1 in the ARCA car here. Otherwise, that pretty much sums up the fix settings you can change. So go ahead and apply that now. And then now we're going to jump into a qualifying run, and then I'll probably just keep driving to show you what 30 laps looks like throughout a run here. All right, so taking off here, qualifying, I found that it was best to set up your second lap. It seems like the tires have just a little bit more grip, so I'm just going to take it easy here on the first lap and kind of throw it away. But if you don't feel comfortable that you can really nail the time every time, don't be afraid to run both laps like a qualifying lap, so then you kind of have that safety net. And you also, if you are going to throw away the first one, try not to overdrive the car, don't slide the tires. You can kind of take it easy in 1 and 2. And then in 3 and 4 here, you're going to go ahead and set yourself up on the outside so that you can carry as much speed to take the green here.
That was your fastest lap
Okay,
of
we
the
just put
session.
down a 23.016. Let's see if we can make this. Oh, drifting a little bit there, so we can make this third one even a little bit faster.
You've just set your fastest lap of the session.
Okay, so that's one line you can run at Iowa. I'll go ahead and splice in the other 2 lines, but while we're here, I'll go ahead and show you what those look like. So you can sort of run anywhere at Iowa and be fast, which is really cool. One of my favorite things about it. And also, you're able to pass, set yourself up with runs, which can be, you know, not so much at other tracks where it's sort of just a single groove and it's really hard to pass, where Iowa is not like that. You can kind of run just about all over. So for here, we'll pretend like we're going to be running basically the second lane on both ends. So you really can just send it in here. And then the way Iowa is, you can really just kind of send it off with a lot of throttle. Same thing over here. You can really put it up high, but you can also run the bottom too. Honestly, my qualifying lap probably would be a little bit faster if I ran the bottom a little bit better. And then you can also sort of shallow it up here and dive it in, do more of like a diamond. And as you can see, it's going to be pretty close to the lap time. Maybe missing a 10th there or so if I did it better. We'll try it again. Really want to get those tires on the yellow, and then you can drive it off. I find that if you're on the bottom, especially in 1 and 2, if you can get your tires on the yellow, it will almost kind of pull you around the corner. It makes it so the car steers sort of just on that line because of the banking. So that can be really helpful, especially when you're in a race. So now that I've sort of chalked my tires, trying to run these sort of different types of qualifying laps, I'll show you what you're going to want to be doing during a race run. And let me switch this over to last lap. So now you can see the comparisons as I'm running. So in a race run, you typically want to run more towards the bottom. Reason being, it's going to save tires, and in an ARCA race with no cautions, that's definitely something you want to consider. That's not to say that you only can run the bottom the whole race, though. Since there's no cautions, like I just mentioned, you do want to make sure you're taking care of the tires, but maybe not necessarily saving them. I think saving is probably not the best word for it, because you don't want to be slow. Being good at iRacing and sort of moving your way up through is finding a way to take care of the tires while also being fast, and that's going to be more managed through your inputs, so like your steering, and then also your pedals. You know, how fast are you getting on and off the gas? How much brake are you putting in? Things like that all are going to affect tire wear. And then also what's going to affect tire wear is how much you're turning the wheel. So if you feel the car starts to get tight, are you just turning it more? Because that's a really quick way to sort of wear the tires, especially on corner exit. So something you want to keep in mind. So when going through the race run, like I said, I like to kind of run the bottom because it takes care of the tires that much more. But you'll find through a run, maybe it will start to get more difficult. Maybe the car is more loose, or you don't feel as fast. Don't be afraid to slowly move up the track. Just know the more you move up, the faster the tires are going to wear. So sort of kind of my general strategy when I do an official race, especially in ARCA since you don't have to worry about cautions, is to run the bottom when you're single file. And then when you want to make a pass, say I catch the guy in front of me, then maybe go ahead and run a little bit higher. So then you're going to have more momentum coming off the corner. So here I've got a lot more momentum, and then say the guy in front of me, now I can jump down below him if I'm still close to him. Things like that. So use it sparingly, I would say. I think that's sort of just best practice, is to, you know, use them when you need to. Don't necessarily save the whole race, because, you know, even if you have the best tires at the end of the race, well, what does that mean? It means nothing, because those tires aren't ever going to be used again. So you don't want to end up putting yourself in a place where you're saving too much tire. Another trap I think people fall into when they're saving tires is they give up too much track position. Well, just because you let the guy go while you were saving tires does not mean that he is going to let you go when you get back to him. So sometimes I've found that I'll, you know, maybe let's say I started in 5th, and now I'm in 10th, and it's time for me to start making my way through the field. Well, by the time I get back to 5th, I might have used more tire than I would have just running 5th by pushing a little bit harder. Because when you're passing cars, you're going to be pinned on the bottom, maybe you're up top, you're going to be side by side. All those things are going to factor in to your tire wear. So that's something to think about too. You're trying to really just find that balance between taking care of them and then pushing it a little bit. And you'll sort of learn that as you get more comfortable and run more races, sort of where you want to land. But it's not going to do any good, like I said, to end the race with the best tires, because that means you didn't drive the car hard enough. Another thing that a lot of people, I think, don't really know, and something I didn't really pick up on until later into iRacing, is that the more rubber that gets laid down, the slower that line's going to get. So that's when you hear people talking about they're searching for grip or trying things. That's why another reason why I like to have this last lap telemetry up, because then I can start searching around. So maybe I've been running the bottom the whole time, but now I want to run up a little bit to see if there's a little bit extra speed there. And obviously you are going to wear a little bit more tire, but if it's gaining you that much more time, maybe it's worth it. So maybe you only run a car off the bottom to see what that feels like. Or maybe it's towards the end of the race, you're not worried about your tires and you want to get crazy because you're not gaining on the guy in front of you. Well, then maybe we'll just run all the way up here to really get that momentum off of the corner. You really just want to be listening to your car, getting a feel for it, and seeing what different things you can do. So here we're going to run a little bit higher, and then look at that, it's quite a bit faster. Maybe I was talking a little bit too much the last lap because it should be that much faster. But that's kind of the premise of what you should be doing during a race. If you feel like you're not really making any ground up anymore, or your front right is really worn, or your right rear is really worn, try different lines to see if you can find something that's more comfortable for your car. So if your right front is really worn and it's towards the end of the race, maybe make a bigger arc so that it's a little bit easier to turn the car. Or if it's loose. Maybe take a wider line so you're not having as tight a turn radius. Things like that are all things you can do from in the cockpit to change, those lap times to be a little bit faster, and find something different that might work for you. Another couple things, with Iowa being so great with multiple lanes, it's good to get comfortable in the other lanes because when you're racing is going to be side by side, right? So you need to learn how to be fast kind of everywhere, because you're not always going to have the benefit of running the exact line you want. So get comfortable running the top, or vice versa, get comfortable running the bottom. And what I mean by that is if you're already running the bottom, pretend like there's a car on your outside, so you have to stay towards the bottom. And then especially on exit, know that you're going to have that car up there, so you're not going to have all of that extra track to drive up with. Also with Iowa, and honestly most tracks, I would say, the outside lane is going to be the best lane for passing, just because it can be so hard to get that drive off, where if you get kind of pinned down and you can't use all of this exit here, it can make it really difficult, and also wear your tires a lot more because you might be turning more, and then also pushing more, and then, like I said, the rears are going to get loose here, so it's just going to stress them that much more trying to get the power down. So definitely try and protect the top when you can. And it doesn't have to be this high. It could be one car up, things like that. You can kind of watch what the guy behind you's been running to catch up to you, if that's what happened, in your mirror, and sort of, you play that chess game with them, trying to figure out where they're going to run and how you can maybe keep them behind you. I'm not saying block, for the whole race. If it's lap 5 and this guy's clearly faster than you, it might just be better to let him go. But if there's 2 laps to go and you're fighting for, 3rd, 5th, whatever it is, and you don't want to give it up, those are things you want to pay attention to. So you can kind of position your car in a way that it makes it more difficult for them to pass you. We're coming up on here on 27 laps, so we'll go ahead and start pushing it a little bit just to see what kind of lap times you should be running. Obviously, I kind of torched the tires a little bit in the beginning of the run, so maybe it would be a little bit faster under normal circumstances, but hopefully we'll give you a rough idea of where the car can be at after a 30-lap run. And here I am sort of just running all over the place. We'll run the top, and then next lap I'll try running the bottom so we can see what that comparison looks like. So that was basically the middle on both ends. Now it's sort of just shipping in here on the bottom. As you can see, it's pretty much the same. I mean, it's only maybe half a tenth difference, and that could just be from me driving the car a certain way. Then here we are on the bottom. And overall, it looks like there was maybe half a tenth. And then there's also, you can run really high up here, but you have to be careful because there is some bumps. The ARCA car takes it better than most. Same with on the bottom with the bumps. But you're really going to carry a ton of speed on exit, and can be a great way to set up your passes. Run that higher lane. Don't be afraid to use that little extra tire if it's going to gain you a position. Okay, that pretty much summed up 30 laps. I will go ahead and pull into the pits here so you guys can see the lap time distribution, and then also we'll take a look at my tire wear to see kind of where that landed at. And it should be a pretty close indicator of where you want the tire wear, because I did push extra hard in the beginning, sort of running those qualifying lines, but then I probably wasn't driving as hard as I could be or should be throughout the middle of the run while I was going over, the different things with Iowa and the ARCA car.
5, 3, 2, 1. Right here.
All right. Looking at the laps, I ran a 23:008 that time, and I did have Garage 61 open during this, so if you wanted to look sort of at this on your own or in a web browser, you can do that too. But it looks like towards the end of the 30-lap run, we're right there in the 7s and 8s, so good indicator of kind of where you want to be, and that basically ends up being almost a second of fall off, about 3/4 of a second. So something to keep in mind over the run, because there is a pretty big difference. That saving tires is going to go a long way for you, so make sure that you are at least taking care of them the best that you can. Looking at my tires here, not great, but that's probably where it's about going to be. We've got 88 for the right front, 89 for the right rear. So that should also give you a pretty good idea about where you want to land, somewhere about in there. And then I think that pretty much wraps up this car and track combo guide. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like, subscribe if this is something that is helpful to you. And then also the community Discord link and the Garage 61 team. You can join to view all my telemetry, car setups, all that kind of stuff is all on that Garage 61 that you can view. And I run league races 2 or 3 times a week that are all fixed setups. So if you go to a track maybe that I haven't covered, at least you maybe have a reference point of where you could start with the setup or that track. Hope you guys enjoyed this, found it helpful, and if you did, hopefully I will see you next time.